got a call from the funeral director one day, and he was highly nervous and said, "Ma'am, I need you to come down to my office as soon as you can. We must have a face-to-face talk." She said, "What's it about?" He said, "I'd rather not bring it up." Got down to the office, and she sat down, in the chair at his desk, and he wouldn't sit down. He paced a little. He wrung his hands and looked back and forth nervously. And she said, "Listen, you've called me here. What's this about?" He said, "Okay, let me just cut to the chase." He said, "Ma'am, your husband's made an unusual request. Obviously, in part of his last testament, he's left instruction that he's to be buried with $100,000 in his pocket." Her head dropped. She shook her head a little bit, and then she grinned and looked back at him and said, she said, "Well, there won't be any problem. I'll write you a check right now." Hey. Touche.
Back at you.
Take this and go with it, right? The relationships were missing, but the goods were there.
Yes, sir. Back at you.
Talk it for me there, DJ. Check.
Test 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4.
Check. Hit me again with it.
Testing 1 2 3 4. Test 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4. Testing 1 2 3 4.
All right.
Reports now.
All right.
Now they're telling you to move the camera.
Yep.
So back up.
Back up.
We're hot.
We're something.
Okay. We are back in drive time. We think that we have the audio issues corrected. Once again, we've had some infrastructure problems here. We appreciate Ken working through it. No. Just turn your volume down right there.
That echo gets you every time. Maybe me. It is me.
What?
Yeah. I was sitting there trying to hear it. So
he was ready to blame this rookie.
No, I'm saying it gets me every time. Trust me. Hey, I can't tell how many times we've did that. I mean, that is nothing unusual. That's for sure. I hope that the audio is better. I hope that all this is better. Maybe it is. So at any rate, an hour after schedule
ish, it's 8:15 ish.
Yeah. Well, let's try to make it through it now. Hopefully we can. So we do apologize for things just being what they are. Sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. So,
that's the way it goes.
Oh, that's just how it goes. I don't know what was going on with that other.
Let's just reset the conversation and assume that nobody really heard what we said from the beginnings. I think we were having problems from the beginning. Spike Maxwell here with us today, Teacher Appreciation Week, Nurse Appreciation Week. If you have an opportunity throughout the rest of the week, pat them on the back, shake their hand for all the services they provide us on a daily basis and what they mean to us in terms of having an impact in our life. I know that Mr. Maxwell is one of my favorite teachers of all time there at Bruton Middle School back in the day. And of course, he is now in the insurance business here, located there at the Caffey building behind the courthouse. If you have needs there, certainly go in and enjoy the fellowship and their friendly face. And he's a good man to do business with. But Mr. Maxwell, I want to go back to your time at Bruton Middle School, at T.R. Miller High School, both as a student and as a teacher. Talk about when you knew that you were going to at least get into education. In terms of at what point did you say, I think I'm going to give this a shot?
DJ, that's an interesting thing that you'd bring up in the story is this. Having graduated from T.R. Miller in 1966, yeah, that's about 52 years ago. Congratulations, seniors. Lots of you. But I went straight to JD. My folks gave me a choice when I finished at Miller. They said, you can go off to school, to a 4-year school if you like, or you can stay home, go to what Coastal Community College Bruton, which was Jeff Davis, of course, in that day. And you can have a car or a piece of a car. Well, the best I could do, the best we could do was a 57 Chevy. It cost me about $475. And I paid part of it with some savings. And my folks said, okay, stay home for 2 years. I don't regret it one bit. It was a great experience. While there, I had to try to have some design on, well, what will I be? What will I do? And I was like any 17, 18, 19-year-old. What I really wanted to do was have a good time, enjoy the people, and that was a wonderful thing. But I ran into some excellent teachers, several of whom were language arts teachers, English, composition, literature, and that was great to me. And to be frank with you, that was something I gravitated toward because it was not that difficult for me. Maybe I was inclined to lean in that direction. Well, somebody said, what are you going to major with when you go off to South Alabama for your last 2 years? And I said, major? What? And major? Oh, well, I'm going to have to find some direction here. And some said, look, why don't you go into education? I said, why do you say that? And I don't know. I want to stay in school all my life. And someone said, well, I understand the curriculum for education is not that difficult. You can shy away from the maths and the sciences a little bit. And Becky Everidge, I needed to shy away from the math somewhat because as good as you were, I wasn't. Okay, so thank you very much for what you taught me. It was wonderful. I got by, and that was it. But so that was the story. I went into education, and when I went to South Alabama, I took those courses, and next thing I knew, I was graduating with a degree in secondary education, and so it was my turn at the podium.
Very good.
I've told people I've seen hockey scores higher in my first in Miss King's pre-cal class. I've seen hockey scores higher than that first test score I got. So I feel you when it comes to the whole math thing. We've actually talked about it on this show. We still, and I think you were in on that show that we're still trying to figure. Geometry is something that escapes me sometimes, and the reason it does, I know how to use math when it comes to like audio and so I hadn't used it real good this morning. Let me say that, okay? But I know how to use it when it comes to that, or of course, if you woodworking things such as that. But the whole the geometry thing sometimes. I mean, I understand the Pythagorean theorem and all those types of things, but the rest of it, I've just kind of lost on. And maybe it was just because I just never really made a lot of sense to me. Now, algebra and all that did, but geometry was just something I had a tough time with it.
Well, okay, Ken, class is in session.
Okay.
Let me school you just a bit, and maybe I'll give you a newfound respect for those who do need it.
Please.
I had a tough time with geometry. I do not think logically, apparently, because all that theorem proving and things, DJ, you mentioned that yourself the other day, I had a tough time with. But the plane geometry, and I was not able to think perhaps in 3D or 4D or whatever, but 2D, I appreciated length and width. I was good with that. And every day in my job today, when I'm dealing with property, measurements of homes and properties and how to figure out the square footage, the sizes and things like that. All you builders can appreciate this. You carpenters, you have to deal with length and width every day. I would draw a diagram of the home that I'm looking at to perhaps insure in order to figure insurance to value or replacement cost. And some house plans don't lay out in a square or a rectangle. Some have turns and angles, and we had to figure the square footage. Guess what? Plane geometry taught me how to do that. You mentioned the isosceles triangle, the right triangle, C square equals A square plus B square. Put all these things together, and I can figure the square footage. Thank God for that. Becky, Barrett, Everidge, thank you. You taught me how to do that.
Well, I can tell you one thing. I just appreciate the fact, and I live with a teacher, so I appreciate the fact that, teachers have the ability to be very patient. You'd have to be very patient to be an educator, period. And when with a class full of people like myself, who don't really understand those types of things. And the problem is you get to college and you got professors that go up there and throw things on the board, and you're just supposed to automatically have all that, and so it doesn't foster, I tell you what, Foster's Learning is the tutoring center that you spend a lot of time, or I did. I spent a lot of time in daily. So, but we were talking earlier, and I don't know if people got to hear this or not because of the audio we were having such problems with. But you mentioned Coach Cotton. I want to tell you a funny story about Coach. And this was back when I was in high school. You were still, I think, maybe a year or two when I was in high school doing the PA addressing. That'd have been the late 80s.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I think you were. So anyway, it was homecoming. I don't remember which year. I was a freshman, sophomore, somewhere in there. So it was homecoming, and he comes, and of course, Coach Cotton was our principal, and he comes and grabs me out of class, and he says, "Ken, you get down to that stadium." It was Friday of homecoming. Of course, homecoming festivities and activities going on. He said, "You get down to that stadium and don't you come back up here until that PA is working. We've called everybody in Mobile and Pensacola and Montgomery. They can't send anybody down here. The PA doesn't work. Don't you come back up here until that PA is working." I said, "Gotcha. No problem." I'm what? How old are you? 9th, 10th grade, 15 years, 16 years old, I'm thinking, hey,
old enough to be dangerous.
Sure. So apparently he had heard from somebody that, or I take that back. He kind of knew that I had an affinity for electronics. So so I go down there. Well, about, I don't know, maybe 9:35, 10, 9:45, he comes down and looks in there, and I have got wire in the press box hanging out of the windows, strewn from one end of the press box to the other. They're just, and he just loses it. "Oh my, it's never going to happen." He said, homecoming's going to be just ruined. We ain't going to have a PA. What are we going to do? I said, "Coach, I got it. Just let me have it. Let me have it." Well, he leaves. Of course, he needed to. About 30 minutes later, Lynn Smith was the assistant principal. And here comes Lynn down there, and he says, "Ken, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, Coach Cotton come and got me out of class, told me not to come back up to the school until this PA was fixed." He says, "Oh, no, you come with me." I said, "Well, what's the problem?" He said, "You're not supposed to be down here. You're supposed to be in class. You follow me." I said, "Okay." So, of course I did what he asked me. He told me to get up and come. I got up and followed him. And so in the old high school,
you were an obedient student always. I'm certain.
Well, not always, but on that particular day, hey, the man standing there, it's either get up and do it or I'd already told him one time Coach had sent me down there. Well, that, I don't think he either believed, I don't know what he did, and maybe I need to get Mr. Smith to come on this show one day and tell this story. But we walked up at the old school. You walked up from the stadium we were in the south end zone, walked up that way. And just as we come through the yellow doors, Coach is coming out of the office, the door over there by the counselor's office. He's coming out of the office, and he looks at me and he says, "Does that PA work?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "It sure doesn't." I said, "Your buddy here would like to tell you something." That's exactly how I said it. I probably shouldn't have said it that way, but I did. And I'm just going to tell the story the right way. And so he looked at Mr. Smith and he said, "Yeah," he said, "he's getting zeros." He said, "I caught him down there in the press box playing. He's supposed to be in class." And when he said that, Frank Cotton jumped about this high off the ground. And he said, "You get your tail back down there to that stadium and don't you come back up here until that PA works." And he looked at Mr. Smith and said, "And you come with me." Now, I don't know what was said once I turned around and went back down to the stadium, but I can tell you one thing. Mr. Smith didn't say anything else to me for the rest of the school year. At all. I'd pass him in the hall. "How you doing, Mr. Smith?" He wouldn't even speak to me. Okay. I don't know what was said. But about 2:00 that afternoon, I said hello in the microphone, and it just echoed. You know how it would echo all through those trees and stuff down there? And here comes Coach Cotton down. I want to call him Frank, but because that's what I used to pick at him over at the Ford store with. But here comes Coach Cotton down there wide open. He says, "Is it working?" I said, "What can you hear? You mean turn it up louder?" No. So he from that day forward, anytime that there was some electrical fiasco. I'm talking, it didn't matter if it was electricity. He came and got me thinking I was an electrician or something, could fix all this. And I'd have to tell him sometime, Coach, I don't probably need to be fooling with that. I don't care. Fix it, and he'd get somebody obviously up there to do that. But
great story.
But I do remember that well. And I remember him telling me, the reason I thought about it was I remember him telling me, he said, listen, Spike's voice has got to be heard tonight. That's what he kept telling me. So, anyway, Coach Cotton was a very one of my dear friends, and he is missed. But I could sit and tell Coach Cotton stories for a long time. But that's one of my favorites.
That's great.
I've never seen Coach jump that high up off the ground and get that mad just that fast. So maybe y'all have. I haven't.
Well, Ken, anybody who has ever seen Coach Cotton when he coached, when he stuck that chin out and looked you in the eye, especially if he grabbed your face mask, am I right, DJ?
You're absolutely right.
There was trouble brewing, and he often had to stand on his tiptoes to get in some guys' faces, maybe not DJ, but some of these taller guys, and he would do just exactly that. But when that chin came out, somebody was going to hear it.
I can tell you, I don't know what, like I said, I don't know what he said that day. And I tell you the truth, I have to make Mr. Smith speak to me to this day. No, I'm joking. But that was Coach's temper was really kind of mellowed, after he retired from coaching, from all of the things that I hear about the way he coached and stuff. But he was a great mentor and course principal. And he, when he told you something, he meant it. And I mean, there's no doubt about that. So
I agree. And just another arm of the education process, and a very important arm, are those teachers who agree to move into administration and take a lot more of the heat than we ever had to take from the classroom, believe me. And I have nothing but the utmost respect of those people who have gone on to be assistant principals, counselors, coordinators of any kind. And when I remember people like Dale Garner and Bill Pendergrass and Jerry Murphy, I could go on and on, but
sure. People
like that who were willing to take the heat, grab the snake by the tail and just wring him out. That was tough because they had to hear it from everybody else. The school board, the public, they were under a lot of pressure that we as classroom teachers didn't feel. And I thought at one time I might want to go into that arm of education. Matter of fact, Coach Cotton and Mr. Jerry Weeks. Some of you know Jerry Weeks. I think Jerry's recently moved from here, but anyway, we all took classes together to become certified as administrators, and we all were. And Coach Cotton followed through on it and had a great career as an administrator, as he did a coach and an auto salesman.
He certainly had that career. I do have this question: who do you? And I say I don't mean difficult as in like a problem. Who do you find it easier to? Is it easier to deal in retail or deal with students per se? And I ask that question just because I can see the kind of the parallels really between the two.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I get it. It's a lot easier in the business world from that standpoint. The reason I say that is, when you're dealing with students, you're dealing with minors, and you're dealing with mama's baby.
Sure.
And daddy's little girl. And I'd say that with all due respect because I've had my own little boys, and they're not little boys anymore, but I've had them, and I have granddaughters now, and I'm thankful for all of them. But I get that from that standpoint too. And because that's the situation, then it's a tough thing to do. Sometimes doing the right thing is not what people want to hear. And so you need to be in much prayer and much consideration about decisions you make, things you say, and how you confront people as an educator, because these are matters of the heart first and foremost. And the futures of these children are the most important thing that the parents have on their agenda. And do they always make the right choices? No, I didn't as a parent. I didn't as a teacher. And I don't as a businessman today. But you know what? We need to constantly stay in prayer that what we say and what we do will be the right thing for the circumstances that unveil themselves.
And I know I'm taking up all of DJ's time, but I have another quick question for you.
From me.
So how did y'all come up, or you come up with the idea to spotlight some of the businesses that you have been spotlighting? I've enjoyed that so much. And when you talk about doing the right thing, of course, Drexel and Honeybees comes to mind because of the ministry that they are providing for our community. And how did you come up with that?
Well, focusing on Lisa and Freddie McMillan's ministry venture, Drexel and Honeybees, was a natural for us because we've been friends with them for many years and have supported their ministry, just as you mentioned back, DJ, when Lisa had the little place across the track down the bottom, and right on up through her work at the junior college cafeteria and other things. It was a natural. We were trying to determine, well, what do we need to do to recognize some people, things that we're involved in that we care about, and we decided why not use our Facebook page, because people seem to enjoy things that bring attention to individuals who are doing some things that are worthy of recognition. And it was natural that we start with Lisa, and we decided, well, let's take once a week, let's take a community involvement of a group or an individual, and on the flip side of that, let's take a local restaurant and let's just focus on those and take some pictures of what these people are doing, and it's worthwhile. The people want to know about it, and we've had some comments come back where people appreciate the fact that we've recognized these.
It's been tremendous as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it really has been, and I think these businesses are well deserved of the recognition. Well, we've kind of done that since we started the show.
Yes, you have.
Was to kind of bring a spotlight on just all of the great businesses, not just in Bruton, but in East Bruton and of course our area. I mean, we are just as lucky to have a lot of great business people and such as yourself as we are the educators and the nurses. And we ran around during the Dash for Cash and said it a bunch. We live in the greatest community in the world, and we do believe that.
Well, listen, Bossman Productions, Drive Time with DJ and KJ, you have done a lot of things to make the good side of Bruton shine. And certainly I recognize our mayor and Connie Baggett and others who have done so much to improve the economic position of our community as well as the look of our community. We look good, we shine. And of course, the work that our garden people have done, I can't say enough about them. It's a beautiful place to be. It's a beautiful place to come. And everyone who comes recognizes these things. And when they see the things that you're bringing out, such as on this show and other things that are worthwhile, people eat it up, if you don't mind my saying it that way, because they're saying, hey, that's my town. That's my place. These are my people. And I'm proud to be here. You're doing a good job. We thank you for it. We, meaning the general public, those of us who are in business, and those of us who've been around long enough to care.
Well, I tell you what, we, there's nothing bad can come out of positive. Not in my opinion. So, and that's what we enjoy. So, and we've held to that, really since day one, since we started doing this. So anyway, I'm gonna hand it back to DJ, and I know we're probably getting close to taking up way too much of Spike's time.
We can't get out of here without saying this. You made a difference as an educator. You were making a difference as a business professional. You reached me. I can tell you, as being a student at Bruton Middle School, you reached me. And when you went home, you weren't the only great teacher at that house. Miss Maxwell, also another one of the great educators that we've had here. And I don't know anybody that didn't cross her path, that didn't love her to death, just like you were loved. I think you'd be the first to admit that she was also a big part and continues to be a big part of the success that you have and the quality of life that you're able to live and the impact that you have on our community.
Well, DJ, you're too kind, I would say, first of all, and because we've made our share of mistakes over the years, but when you hear people compliment you, it makes you itch a little bit, stir in your seat, but it stirs a lot of emotions too, because when you pour yourselves into anything worthwhile, it can be emotional at times, and I've had many times where I agonized over dealing with certain students, as dealing with customers and employees, lots of times. But it's only because, if it's important to you, you're going to care, and at times you're going to be emotional about it. We appreciate the compliments, sure do, and I know that I've had times where I have failed students, but I can see that sometimes I've meant something positive that hopefully prepared them. And I'll sum it up by saying one thing. In the 7th grade, we taught a lot of English grammar. That was kind of the level where that was really necessary. We had to try to bring elementary school kids into a high school attitude with communications, and we did a lot of grammar. And whether or not you remember what a preposition is, I'll just tell you, in the vernacular that I adopted, a preposition is a word that tells anything a rabbit can do to a stump. Well, that's
the way I remember it.
Why do I have to remember 40 prepositions?
Winning.
And mail them back to you. I can't name but 10. And I said, well, if you think about it, you probably can use that little thing about the rabbit and name a few more. But understand this. We as educators don't necessarily value as most important that 10 years from today you can name 3 prepositions, or that you can give the exact year that the War of 1812 started.
Right.
But what we care about is this. We want to see that you are a contributing member of society, and that you are a hardworking, wage-earning person if you're not disabled physically, etc., that you have a family for whom you care and provide, and that you seek the good Lord's guidance. That's what I, as a teacher, looked for. And in 10 years, if you could come back and say, Spike Maxwell, you were my teacher, and I don't remember anything about prepositions or even the very grade when you taught me, but I remember that you and several others meant a lot to me, and I just want to say thank you. Listen, that's a reward that I'll carry with me to heaven.
Well, you have it, because you did.
Yes, he did.
God bless you.
Well, let's wrap it up, DJ. It's been a great time with Spike. Thank you for coming in.
A pleasure, Ken.
And
David, a pleasure.
Do your deal, DJ.
It's been an entertaining day here on Drive Time from a technical standpoint.
Yes,
we got it straightened out. I appreciate Ken doing that. Once again, there is no Bossman Productions without Ken. Without him, it doesn't happen at all. We appreciate that. I know it's challenging at times. We appreciate you and your patience with us. We certainly appreciate Spike Maxwell and all our teachers, all our nurses. We're going to have some more of each through the rest of the week on the program. So y'all have a great week, a great day. We love y'all, and we will see y'all tomorrow here on Drive Time.
Thank you for tuning in to Drive Time, live from the Peach Pit in historic Bruton, Alabama. Remember to tune in every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m.-ish. Remember to like and share the Drive Time videos, as the more you like and share, the more chances you have to win.